Good morning. I'm just checking if my sound is okay.
Good morning, Mr. Niehaus. Yes, your sound is good.
Okay, thanks. Good morning. How are you doing, Nandipa?
I'm doing well, and how are you, Mr. Niehaus?
Okay.
All
I'll
right,
see
thank
you at
you.
9 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Morning, Comrade Ala. Morning, Comrade Plaikis.
Comrade Carl.
How are you on this beautiful Friday morning?
We are very fine. We are very fine.
Don't complain, Boche. And
I'm
how are
glad to
you?
hear that. I'm fine, thanks. Thanks, Com.
Yes, Boche.
Okay,
Yes, Boche.
we'll talk.
This thing, Mutambi
Hmm.
is the new chair for health now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that means, oh yes, I saw that Dr. Dlomo resigned. Ne?
Yes.
What is he doing now? Has he moved somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't know, Carl.
Okay, anyhow.
I don't know.
So I suppose
Maybe he's
Mutambi-
gone back to his province.
Yeah. I suppose Comrade Mutambi then won't be with us anymore in this committees.
Yeah, he's a chair now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Mutambi
Okay,
is
comrades.
a hard-working woman.
Yeah, no, she will work hard.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be online just now.
Sharp, Boche.
Sharp.
Recording in progress.
Morning, honorable members.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members.
Morning, Comrade Top. Chair.
Morning, Chair. Morning, honorables.
Good morning, Deputy Minister, and to all the honorable co-chair and all the honorable members who are on the platform. I had spoken to the minister who requested to join the meeting slightly late, given that she's dealing with an urgent matter involving Palestinian refugees. I saw the matter developing in the media. Now, she's requested to join the meeting slightly late, but the rest of the team, currently led by Deputy Minister Olomisa, is here. Our agenda is as presented, that we deal with, after opening, we deal with apologies. We then deal with the briefing by the Military Ombud, the consideration of individual oversight terms of reference, the consideration of the draft report of our joint visit in Limpopo, and then we've added item 6, not for discussion per se, but for request that it be included to our meeting of the 5th of December. And then we will consider the minutes. It's quite a packed agenda, and I hope we will be able to go through it until we finish. Can we have a mover for the adoption of the agenda and a seconder, please?
I move, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Niehaus moves. Can we please have a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hala. Can we then receive apologies?
Good morning, co-chairs, deputy ministers, Office of the Military Ombud, and all the honorable members. There's apologies from Mr. Hwase, who is having a meeting, her committee is having a meeting with the Minister of Finance, as well as Mr. Gerge, who is still on sick leave. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I hope that the apology of the minister has also been noted.
Yes, it has, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we then move straight? I will allow Deputy Minister Olomisa to introduce the team from the Office of the Military Ombud. Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson and honorable members. The Ombuds will do the introduction of his team. However, we are here today to table our annual report and be ready to take whatever advice coming from you or address some shortcomings if there are any. I might take this opportunity as well to brief the committee. I know that the issue we discussed was under the auspices of the Portfolio Committee on Defense a few days ago. I have, as per your instruction, a co-chair of the Portfolio Committee on Defense submitted the report to the Minister of Defense, a report which addressed the backlogs of the cases of corruption which dates back from 2006. So, and also I've shared in that report what the chief of the SANDF is doing as we speak. Thank you very much.
General Masondo, we now hand over to you. And as we do so, may I take the opportunity to congratulate you on a successful conference you recently held in Joburg of the military ombuds. It provided very invaluable insights on what is being done both in our country as well as in other countries. And I think we hope that we will draw necessary lessons that are going to improve the work that you do and empower our own service in terms of the mandate that you have to carry. I hand over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair Kigaba. Please allow me to also greet other members of the Standing Committee and also extend a greeting to our Deputy Minister, General Odomisa. Before I proceed, I would like to introduce members of my management team, starting with Chief Director Operations, Mr. Mtetwa, and then Director Intake and Analysis, Mr. Bear, Director Legal, Advocate Mape, and Director Investigations, Mr. Jonas, Acting Chief Corporate Staff, Ms. Makubela, and then my PA, Ms. Umwatle. I just wish to tender an apology for my deputy who's attending a funeral today. Co-chairs, let me also indicate that the international conference that we hosted as an office proved to be an overwhelming success. And the theme of that conference was building bridges, oversight and outreach efforts by Ombuds institution. And out of that, the quite valuable lessons that we have drawn from that meeting. If I may then proceed with the presentation for today, Honorable Co-Chairs, I'll request that it be flighted so that we can continue with that. DK? From the first slide, please. Yeah, my apology for that delay in flighting the presentation. Next slide, please. Aim. DK, back. Sorry. Of course, the aim of this presentation is to brief the Joint Standing Committee on Defense on the consideration of recommendations, implementation of Ombud recommendation, and potential legislative shortfalls affecting the office of the Military Ombud. To do this, we're going to cover the following topic. Next slide, please. current status of reports issued by the Military Ombud, implementation of reports accepted by the Minister of Defense and military veterans, legislative shortfalls, and finally will conclude. Coming then to the current status of reports issued by the Military Ombud, we want to trace this back from the tenure of Minister Mapisa Ngakula, who was appointed shortly after the appointment of the first Military Ombud, Lieutenant General retired Matanzima, in 2012. During her tenure, she appointed a legal advisor to inter alia advise on matters related to the office of the Military Ombud. Generally, her tenure was marked by good relations and interaction with the office of the Military Ombud. Reports that were submitted to her were duly considered, and she communicated her decisions to the office through formal letters. I need to mention that even though our recommendations are not binding on the minister, she actually treated these as if they are binding on her, because every time she didn't agree with any of our recommendations, she would instruct that it be taken to the High Court for review, as per Section 13 of our Act. At the end of her term, she returned 8 reports that she was unable to address. And of course, these were subsequently resubmitted to Minister Modise upon her appointment on the 5th of August 2021. I need to indicate that considerations of our reports slowed a bit during the tenure of Minister Modise, and also the office, or rather the Military Ombud, faced challenges in gaining access to the minister. Part of the issue that occasioned this is that during the orientation of the minister to the department, the office didn't have an opportunity to actually present to her so that she could be clear as to the mandate and role of the office. And of course, given this situation, parliamentary committees on defense were informed of these challenges, and were then called to present the status of our reports in May and again in September 2023. I must then say that following our appearance before the committee in May, then the minister appointed a legal advisor to then advise on our reports, thereby initiating interaction with our office. I must say, towards the end of her tenure, some progress was achieved in terms of addressing the backlog of reports submitted to the minister. Sorry, slide before that. Since the appointment of Minister Motshekga on the 3rd of July last year, interaction with and access to the minister has been positive and supportive. I think this was helped by the fact that we were able to brief the minister on the mandate of our office, and she also had the opportunity to visit our office. And of course, now consideration of our reports is regular, and the minister provides feedback to our office, although it's by way of copies of instructions that have been sent to the office of the Chief of the Defense Force. I must mention that the legal advisor to the minister has not as yet been appointed, and we've been discussing this with the minister. Because currently our reports are being processed by people who are not legally qualified, and there are disadvantages in that, because sometimes out of ignorance of the law, they question certain things which somebody who's trained legally wouldn't. And in November last year, we were able to then launch a project with the office of the minister to try and zoom into the backlog reports that have not been attended by the previous ministers. And I'm happy to say that there's been some progress with 16 of the 93 reports that are beginning to receive responses. Now, Honorable Chair and members, I want to take you through that graph. And just to explain before I tackle the graph itself, that the area in dark green denotes those reports that were issued by the Office of the Military Ombud. And then the lighter shade of green is reports that were upheld out of that total that was issued. And the last lighter green is actually reports that were then considered by the minister. So if we were to look at that graph, tracing it back to financial year 1920, we'll see that that year we issued 118 reports, 40 of which were upheld, and therefore only 4 were attended by the minister, which left about 36 reports not attended. Part of the reason is that this was during COVID time and therefore affected by the lockdown period. For the financial year 2021, we had about 21 reports that were not attended to. Financial year 21-22, it was 15 reports. 23-24, 13 reports. 23-24, 8. And 24-25, 7 reports. In the current financial year, we have sent 7 reports to the Office of Minister, but none of those were actually upheld. So it's mainly reports that we either dismissed or were able to resolve through alternative dispute resolution. Next slide, please. Coming to the issue of implementation of reports by the SANDF. As an office, we took an initiative to make sure that we establish a relation by way of monthly meetings between my office and the office of the Chief of the Defense Force, where we're able then to address issues of a slow response to information that is required by the office from the services and division. We also zoom into issues of delays in the implementation or non-implementation of a recommendation. And of course, at that level, we also then discuss those issues that are not, that cannot be resolved at the level of the liaison forum. The liaison forum is a forum, staff liaison forum between my office and the office, and the Department of Defense, where discussions take place about progress in terms of investigation and the stumbling blocks that are there that need to be resolved. I must indicate that there are challenges regarding the pace at which recommendations are implemented, sometime exceeding a period of 2 years. Currently, on our records, we've got about 40 implementation of recommendations that have not been finalized. Some of those date back to the year 2017. And of course, this causes a problem to our complainants, and we've had instances where some of them have actually approached the Office of the Public Protector to try and have their rather recommendations of the office in terms of their complaints implemented. I need to emphasize, therefore, that this forum between myself and the Chief of the SANDF is not provided for in our legislative framework. It's like a gentleman's agreement to ensure that our work runs smoothly. Next slide, please. Coming to the legislative shortfalls. In 2020, the office sought and obtained approval from Minister Pisa Ngakula to commence with a legislative review of our act. And then preparatory steps were taken, and the process was not fully concluded due to various factors. One of the key factors is that we decided that because it's not every year that you review or act, that as part of the review of our act, we must address the institutional form of the office, which has actually proved to be a problem as we do our work. And of course, upon the appointment of Minister Mochecha, I had a meeting with her to actually brief her on what we've been doing, and also that we are seeking approval from her to continue with the process of legislative review, including the issue of addressing the institutional form of the office, that is the office becoming a public entity. In that interaction, the minister intimated that Cabinet is busy discussing, as per recommendations from National Treasury, the issue of discouraging oversight institution becoming public entities, because this will be actually costly and bearing on the fiscus. But the office experience over the years has highlighted certain gaps and ambiguities that hinder its effectiveness and independence. Therefore, the review aims to address operational and legal limitations identified in the implementation of the Military Ombud Act. These are mainly to strengthen the independence and effectiveness of the office in investigating complaints, enhance accountability and transparency, and to ensure alignment with international Ombud standards and best practice, because we are members of the International Institute of Ombudsmen and also IOMA. Next slide, please. Therefore, the proposed amendment will address, among other issues, issues relating, for instance, to the current inability to conduct own initiative investigation. The Act currently allows investigation upon the receipt of a written complaint. So in other words, the office is actually reactive. We cannot address an issue that is within the mandate of the office unless we actually receive a complaint. And this situation put the office in a very difficult and embarrassing situation during COVID, especially in that incident where soldiers interacted with Mr. Colin Koza from Alexander, who then subsequently died as a result of that interaction. Were bombarded by the media as to what we're doing about the issue. But because we had not received a complaint from the family, we couldn't do anything. But when pressure mounted, we then utilized Section 611 of our Act, where the minister can actually task the Ombud with tasking that should not be inconsistent with our Act. It was only through that that we were able to investigate that problem. Of course, the other issue that we want to address as part of the legislative review is the issue that the implementation of a recommendation, once the minister has accepted this, that is to introduce mandatory response timelines from the department and progress reporting to Parliament on the implementation of this recommendation. The office, therefore, is exploring alternative models to operationalize independence while maintaining administrative accountability to the minister or parliament. To conclude, allow me to say the following. The identified legislative gaps are some of the pertinent matters that have been raised by both our internal and external stakeholders. The legislative review provides an opportunity to strengthen the office's mandate, independence, and effectiveness. And the committee's input and support will be vital to ensure a robust, credible, and constitutionally sound military ombud framework. Thank you, Honorable Chairs. We're ready to take questions on the presentation.
Thank you very much, General. Can we now note hands? Honorable Niehaus, followed by Honorable Hattie.
Thank you, Chair. And can I just request the administration to lower the PowerPoint presentation so that we can engage with each other properly? Chair, I want to appreciate the presentation that was done by the Military Ombud, retired Lieutenant General Masondu. Let me immediately also say, Chair, that I think we must be technically correct that this is not an annual report by the Military Ombud, but it is a briefing on particular issues of concern. I heard the retired Major General Bantu Lemisa refer to it as an annual report. Obviously, that is not what this presentation has been all about. Chair, I think the first issue that we need to raise is the continuing lack of independence of the Military Ombud from the Department of Defense. I'm also sitting in the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, and I have followed the process of how we have managed to get the Judicial Inspectorate on Correctional Services to move away from a somewhat similar position to which the Military Ombud find itself in, to become an entirely independent institution. I understand some of the constraints that Lieutenant General retired Masondu has referred to with regards to the reluctance of government to create more public entities. But I would like to get more detail from the Military Ombud on the proposals that they intend to move forward with regards to the review of the Military Ombud Act of 2012. Because I think we must try to ensure that the Military Ombud will be as independent as it is at all possible under the constraints of this reluctance of government to create another independent entity. In this regard, Chair, I would like to raise my concern about what I see as a relationship between the Minister and the Military Ombud, which is purely relating to the disposition of the Minister towards this institution. When we go through the historical report that was given by the Military Ombud, we hear that things were going quite well with Minister Mapisa Ngakula, evidently not so well with Minister Thandi Modise, and apparently better with the current minister, Minister Angie Motshekga. Now that indicates to me that it relies on the personal disposition of the minister, and obviously that should not be the case. Therefore, we need to regulate these interactions in a way that is not what Lieutenant General retired Masondo described in terms also of his relationship with the chief of the South African National Defence Force, that is a forum which is really premised on a gentleman's agreement. It's not good enough, Chair. We must find a way that the recommendations that are being made by the Military Ombud must be considered within a particular time frame and timeline. When we look at the current situation, although the Military Ombud tells us there's an improvement, we still have 93 outstanding reports and cases and only 16 that has been responded to. This is unacceptable. And I find it even more disturbing when the Military Ombud referred to this as an improvement of the situation. Chair, we also need to insist as a committee that we must understand why the review of the Military Ombud Act since 2020 is taking so long. And personally, I must say, I really don't understand, except if it was perhaps a matter of courtesy, why the Military Ombud had to request again from the newly appointed Minister Motshekga if the review of the Military Ombud Act of 2012 could continue. There was clearly agreement that it should continue and it should simply have proceeded. But I honestly don't understand why it is taking a whole of 5 years to review issues that are evidently clear and are very critical for the Military Ombud to be able to perform its duties. And Chair, then finally, I want to repeat what I've said many times before about the Military Ombud. And that is, it cannot be that the investigations that the Military Ombud does rely simply on the written complaints of members of the South African National Defence Force or members in that regard. It must be that the Military Ombud must be able to launch its own investigations. Lieutenant General Masondo referred to the embarrassing situation that they were faced with regarding Mr. Khoza. Secondly, Chair, it also can't be that it simply depends, as I said, on the goodwill of the minister to decide how to respond or not to respond to what is at this stage only mere recommendations by the Military Ombud. There must be a provision that the reports of the Military Ombud must be reported to, and that the minister must be able to implement those recommendations by the Military Ombud, and those recommendations must be binding on the minister. If the minister is not happy with a particular recommendation, then obviously there are, as there are with all institutions, always the legal route for the minister in order to challenge such a recommendation. But to be faced with a situation, as it continues to be at the moment, that the Military Ombud, first of all, is totally dependent on the goodwill of the minister. Secondly, that there are gentlemen's agreements also with the chief of the South African National Defence Force, not a formalized forum. And thirdly, that the recommendations of the Military Ombud are not binding on the minister. And then, of course, fourthly, that the Military Ombud cannot initiate investigations. These are all critical issues which are, if they are not addressed, they actually undermine the whole purpose of the institution of the Military Ombud and create a toothless tiger. So I would like to hear from the Military Ombud whether all of these issues that I've raised, and I think they are there because they seem to be referred to in what he said, are being under consideration with the review. And also, very importantly, when do they intend to finalize this review so that the process of taking it to the minister and eventually it also serving in front of Parliament and in front of this committee can be understood. We need a time frame. From 2020 until now has honestly been far too long. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Hatting. I want to also welcome Honourable Deputy Minister Mkungo. I saw he had joined the meeting much earlier as well. You are welcome, Deputy Minister. Honourable Hatting, followed by Honourable Shelembe.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Chair, here we once again meet with the and discuss a report of the Military Ombud, but with grave concern, because the office of the Military Ombud, in plain terms, not of its own doing, has failed again to serve the members, the very members that it should serve, and also that's the members of the SANDF and other complainants. Now, for years, the Minister and the SANDF have routinely, as if by design, ignored and deferred implementation of findings fully upheld by the Ombud. Indeed, the Ombud's own briefing confirms a backlog of 93 fully upheld reports still awaiting ministerial decision. And its strategic plan admits to a lengthy and drawn-out process still awaiting ministerial decision. So, for the Military Ombud to actually try and attempt, and I see all the intentions there, but Honourable Chair, I think it's futile. If there was a history of acknowledging the work and the quality of the work done by the Ombud, then we wouldn't have been in this situation. Now, to rewrite the Act, subject to approval from the very same institution that undermines the implementation of the Ombud's work will simply not go. Yeah, I believe that there should not be minor amendments to the Ombud Act, Military Ombud Act. It should be rewritten in its entirety, and there should be much more independence for the Ombud from the Minister and from the SANDF, because we've got a proven record that the current system is dysfunctional. It's actually an embarrassment. It undermines everything, and we only last week had a presentation on the morale of the SANDF, and this is one of the factors that plays right into that and affects that. So I believe that there should be a new act which gives the Ombud teeth, not only to investigate but also to implement, and it should not be put on the back burner continuously by the Minister or by the SANDF. So if we just focus, let me interrupt myself there, Chair, and I believe if we do not see the drastic and radical changes perhaps in some people's minds in the Act, then I believe that this committee should actually do its own bill and push it through all the stages to Parliament to arrive at the new Act that will serve the interests of the members of the SANDF and the public, without being overridden and being put on the back burner by the Minister or the SANDF at all the time. So I believe there should be a new Act. If it's not by this committee, perhaps a private member's bill should perhaps do the thing. Chair, then going back to what we have here, the backlog of 93 fully upheld reports still awaiting the ministerial decision. Chair, can I request that this committee obtain from the Minister a report in writing within 14 days about the 93 date received, why what are the problems? Why is it not being finalized? And then also to provide deadlines for each one of the 93 reports awaiting ministerial decision. Say there should be accountability. We cannot continue in this fashion on this. Also, then from the once it gets approved from the minister, then there's another aspect where we have a hurdle, also perhaps by design. So I would like to know also in that report from the minister for those Ombud recommendations that were accepted by the office of the minister have remained unimplemented past their due date. And I would like to see that report and then also reasons for it not being implemented, and also then perhaps if we can in the same report have a target date with full implementation. I would also like the minister formally to respond to the lengthy and drawn-out processes. And we see there are monthly meetings between the Ombud and the SANDF. But even with that, why do these lengthy and drawn-out processes to implement recommendations, why does it still happen? And what are and there's even reference to resistance from some SANDF leaders to accountability measures. So I would like also in that report for the minister to specifically address those issues. Chair, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hatting. Honorable Shelembe, followed by Honorable Hala.
Thank you, thank you, Chairperson. That flow is not going away. Forgive me. Maybe I'll end up being admitted now. Thank you. For the presentation from the Office of the Military Ombuds. Well, it seems. The challenges has been going on. For years. Safe to say, from 2012 to date, that there's still, a slow pace in getting issues resolved. I can understand, but also the question on the issue of the independency of the military ombuds. Because I think, in Section 8 of the Military Ombuds Act, I think it's number 12 of 2012, it's clear there that the military ombuds must act, independently and impartial. And also, it's clear that the military ombuds officers and staff members must serve independently and impartial and perform their functions in good faith without fear or being biased, but making sure that it is in line with the Constitution and the law. Now, I just want to know if that word independence is not enough. Because now, if we continue with this issue that they won't be able, to take, decisions because they depend, on someone, to take, a decision. I'm trying to find out now that the independence cannot, finalize the case and get it implemented if the minister is not in agreement. Now, it leaves me with the question, when do we apply independency in that if someone can overrule the decision of the ombuds? If you can get the clarity I may have maybe a misunderstanding when it comes to Section 8 of the Military Ombuds Act. If I can get maybe the clarity on that one. I'm also worried about the issue that matters that cannot be resolved at the Liaison Forum takes long and is delaying the process. If I can get the clarity that if the matter is not resolved at the Liaison Forum, what is the next step to ensure, that those matters are resolved? Also, the issue, of reviewing the Military Ombuds Act, well, it's something that has been raised, in many years. Is there any, maybe just, a picture that can be given to us, because the report is not giving enough information or the time frames to get, the Military Ombuds Act reviewed. I heard, the presenter mentioning the issue of Khoza, I think was, killed, in Alexandria. If maybe you can update us on that issue, if that matter has been closed, does that mean now that matter is put on rest? Chair, I think, it's worrying because why I'm trying to find out about the issue of Khoza. There are many, issues that, are raised by members of the SNDF themselves. Like, if some, they get an accident while, on duty, and they do not get, compensated for that. I want to know from the Office of the Ombuds, if I, as an MP, that can I directly write, to their office to follow up on those complaints from the unsatisfied members of the SNDF who feel, they were not, their matters were not, dealt properly. I just want to know if maybe I can send the details of those, because I've got, the couple that I can send where they say they are not getting the joy from the ombuds and they are not getting the joy from the department. Whereas, some of them, were involved in accident while, at work. And there is another case where, one of the SNDF members was in an accident, and I think, in Free State, but, he did not get, the joy on his matter. I just want to know if I can directly myself write to the Office of the Ombuds, or it's a must that we must go via the minister if we want that information. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Shelembe. Honorable Hala, followed by Honorable Blakis.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable DMs, Honorable members, Ombuds with your team. Ombuds nam mandaleke umsundulo. Bulela lengcelo yakho. Ombuds, when will consultation with stakeholders be completed? The second question is, when will draft amendments for ministerial consideration be submitted? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hala. Timelines, again, the issue of timelines is being raised. Honorable Blakis.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Chair, I'm also bothered by a little bit of flu. Chair, my one is on the awareness of the awareness and outreach campaigns ombuds. I don't see in the presentation they say how many of that are they doing, or are they doing it on request, or don't they have it in the yearly plan as part of awareness, and how much awareness campaigns they will have. I will just want to have clarity on that. And where do they do it? In what level do they pitch it? Do they do it on old soldiers, or do they do it on the newest ones that are getting into the force at a certain stage? Then, Chair, the biggest one, and I think I agree with Honorable Harding, that the ombuds is supposed to be perceived to be impartial, independent, but they are totally dependent on the defense budget. They are totally dependent on the ministry to give them the necessary funds and so forth and so on. It cannot then be that they will ever be impartial and independent. But that is a discussion for another day. But also, Chair, on the review of the Act, where are they, how far are they, and when do they think they will be completing that? That is my last question, Chair.
Thank you very much. The co-chair.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, honourable members. Good morning to them. Deputy Minister, good morning to General Masondo and the senior officers. Chair, mine are just two matters which I'm a little bit concerned about, which the General Masondo did not mention here. The first is that what types of complaints are more prevalent, which are being lodged with the ombuds? And secondly, the thing, Chair, which I'm concerned about is the extent, I think this was mentioned also by Honorable Harding, matters which extend to longer periods, up to 2 years. What happened to the complainant? Because here you're dealing with individuals who are really aggrieved with the organization. What happened to them? Because when a person goes to the ombud, it means he or she has exhausted all the internal, processes. And my worry is that one, Chair, that what happened to that particular person? Is that person operational? What is he or she doing during the 2 years when the matter is not resolved by the DOD? Those are my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chair. General Masondo, I will hand back to you for responses to these questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. We'll try and respond to the questions in the sequence in which they were posed. Starting with questions from Honorable Niels. And of course, from him, some were just comments, for instance, lamenting the continuing lack of independence of the office from the DOD, and that in the other portfolio committee that was involved in, they were able to help chicks to take the matter forward. And then the issue on the review of our acts. On that, I'll leave to the end so that my director, legal, can just take the members through where we are and the envisaged timelines to actually complete this process. And also made a very important remark that the issue of dealing with the reports and recommendations of the office must not depend on the disposition of the minister, who's actually the minister of the department at the time. And also the issue of lamenting that the relationship with the chief is a gentleman's arrangement and is not legislated, which is a fact. And the issue of the time it takes to actually implement reports. On this issue, I need to indicate to honorable members that technically my office have got no role in terms of ensuring that the recommendations are implemented. It's not covered in our act. But we are doing it because we are aware that if we don't do this, the office will be completely irrelevant. So that's why we're thinking, therefore, in the review of the Act, that we should introduce some time frames in terms of how long it should take to implement this, and some kind of feedback loop to Parliament. And of course, he's concerned about why it's taking so long to review the Act since 2020. As I explained in my presentation, when we received authority from Minister Mapisa to review our Act, as an office, we then decided to address the issue of the institutional form of the office, which is not covered in our Act. And of course, because we wanted to do that, we had to discuss the issue with the minister to secure her concurrence. And I'm happy to say Minister Mapisa seemed amenable to this, but said we must consult the Military Command Council and get their buy-in. We did present to the Military Command Council, and they supported the issue of us becoming a public entity. But the minister then was transferred from the department at a point when we were supposed to present to his council, the Council on Defense. And in fact, from the point of view of the office, you cannot pursue the issue of the office becoming a public entity without getting the buy-in from the minister, because it is the minister who must actually champion that to cabinet, to national treasury and all that. So the delay has been around that issue, trying to make sure that the different ministers actually have a buy-in on this issue. And then, and of course, Honorable Niels correctly laments the issue that we rely on the receipt of complaints before we can do anything. And this is an issue that is of concern to us as well, which is why we want to address it in the legislative review. And then, and of course, the issue of when do we plan to finalize the review also, that I'll give to Director Legal just to take the members of the Joint Standing Committee through that. And of course, Honorable Niels has been consistently raising the issue of our recommendations being binding. And I express my personal view on that, to the fact that if these are binding, then the relationship with the department and the SANDF will be conflictual, and we may end up achieving even less than what we're achieving during the current situation. But that's my personal view. Can I pause now and give over to Director Legal just to take honorable members through the review process, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Military Ombud, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, so where we are regarding the legislative review process, we have currently concluded the internal consultations and are currently drafting a policy position for the minister's consideration. In terms of timelines, we have estimated that the process should be concluded in about 2 years. Of course, Chair, as you would know, the process which is initiated by an institution takes much longer than a process that is initiated through a private member's bill. So, of course, I agree with Honorable Harting that in terms of the interest of time, it will be cogent that the process, if possible, is initiated through a private member's bill. Thank you, Chair.
Before I proceed, Honorable Chair, I just want to confirm from Honorable Nias whether we've actually answered all his questions and concerns.
No, I suggest, General, you answer all the questions that you've noted. When you finish, you can delegate to someone else to answer other items so that we don't keep toing and froing. Should there be questions which are not responded to, then honorable members will raise their hands and indicate.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy with that, Honorable Chair. And of course, from Honorable Harting, it was mainly comments and also the issue of reports that must be demanded from the ministry. For instance, what is being done with the backlog of 93 reports, and also a report on non-implementation of Ombud recommendation. So I will skip that. From Honorable Shelembe, concern about the slow pace of getting especially complaints resolved. It's a matter of concern to the office as well, because our Act requires us to actually deal with complaints expeditiously. But to finalize these complaints, we are dependent on the inputs from the SANDF, and sometimes those inputs take long, and there are instances where personally I have to intervene with the chief of the services and divisions to ensure that we get responded to. So it continues to be a challenge for us. And then the second one was the issue of whether the independence of the office is not fully covered in our Act. Because the Act says we must do our work independently and impartially without bias, fear or favor. Well, I want to emphasize the fact that so far, in terms of the core business of the office of investigating complaints, receiving those complaints and all that, there's no interference at all from anyone. The challenges arise in terms of consideration of these of our recommendations at the level of the ministry, and implementation of our recommended action. But where we are challenged as an office in terms of independence, first is in terms of our budget. Our budget is a line item on the budget of the Department of Defense. And also was struggling to spend our budget because of dependence on support systems of the Department of Defense. So that's why we feel if we can become a public entity,
Recording stopped.
We can be able to actually do these things without that dependency on the department. In fact, given the challenges of support from the department, this was raised with the minister, and in 2018, a ministerial directive was issued to the department to ensure that the office can be supported better. But since the issuance of that directive, not much has happened. And of course, Honorable Shelembe also questions the independence of the office if the minister can actually overrule our recommendations. Of course, in our act, the provision is that we submit our recommendations to the minister to implement. Then he also had a question on the matters that cannot be resolved at the liaison forum. What is the next step? The next step, those matters that cannot be resolved at the liaison forum are actually elevated to my monthly meeting with the Chief of the Defense, and then we try and get those resolved at that level. Then the question on why it is taking so long to review the act. Partly I've explained this in terms of us trying to get the concurrence of the minister on the issue of the office becoming an independent public entity. It would have been difficult to proceed without getting that concurrence. And then an update on the COSA issue. As an office, we finalized the investigation on the COSA issue and actually recommended that disciplinary action must be taken against those members who were involved. I'll ask my directors here to just maybe update as to whether that disciplinary action was taken by the department. I'm not sure. And then on the issue of non-compensation of members who were injured on duty, we're receiving quite a number of complaints in this regard. And of course, Honorable Shelembe indicates that some members are not happy with how we've handled those. And we welcome that he can actually send those who send the names of the complainants who are not happy with how we handled their reports, and then we'll be able to provide appropriate responses as an office. So can I, Director Investigation, will you respond on where we are with implementation on the recommendation around the COSA issue, please?
Thank you very much, Ombud, and also thank you very much to the honorable members and chair of the committee. The COSA report, given the fact that it was actually sanctioned in terms of Section 611, it was submitted to the minister with such recommendations. And therefore, we are of the view that that outcome will be pursued at that level. I thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. From Honorable Ahala, he wanted to know when will the consultation with the stakeholders be completed in terms of reviewing our act? I think Director Legal has already responded on that. And then from Honorable Plachis, wanted to know whether our outreach program covers both old soldiers and new soldiers. In terms of our outreach program, before the beginning of the financial year, we produce a plan that will then cover the units that we want to cover as part of the outreach. And of course, members of units constantly change because with new recruits who then join units, you may find they don't know about the existence of the office. And therefore, it's a continuous program to actually make sure that we reach out to all members of the SANDF. And apart from the planned outreach program, we've got also our ad hoc outreaches. This is where we're invited by joint operations to the mobilization centers before the soldiers deploy, where we can then interact with the soldiers there. And also sometimes we get invited to mission training, preparing soldiers for deployment. So we also then conduct those outreaches. But on national days, we are also invited by the Department of Arts and Culture, where we are also able to reach out to members of the public. But our outreach to members of the public, because South Africa is big and the resources don't actually allow us to be able to cover the whole country, we focus on those areas where the SANDF is deployed and where there's likely to be an interaction between deployed soldiers and members of the public that results in complaints. And of course, it was a remark, Honorable Plachis made a remark on the dependency of the office on the DOD budget, which is something that we also lament. And then his last question was, how far are we with the review of the Act, which has been responded to? And then from Honorable Pala, wanted to know the type of complaints that are more prevalent and matters that take long to implement and concerns of the complainant. On the type of complaints, I would request Director Intake and Analysis to take members through that. And on the concerns, of course, I indicated when I was presenting that when it takes long to actually implement, because what happens when we finalize our investigation and provide a final report to the minister, a copy of that is given to the complainant. So the complainant will be anxious from that point as to when are the recommendations going to be implemented. And it's a source of frustration and concern to them when it takes long to get these recommendations implemented. So, Director Intake and Analysis.
Hello. The complaints most prevalent are usually related to service benefits. It was so for the previous financial year and thus for this financial year as well. And these benefits mostly relates to matters of pension, medical and injuries on duties, as well as benefits owed to family upon death. The next category that we find with a lot of complaints is for service termination matters, wrongful termination, and so forth. And then the third category that's most prevalent is matters as it relates to remuneration, whether it's payment, late payment, deductions, and so forth. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Chair, then we depend on members to indicate whether we've fully responded to their questions or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I take Honorable Nkungo, whose hand I see is up, can we get clarity, members, if there was any question that was not responded to? Not a new question, but that were not responded to. Honorable Niehaus.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I asked, and well, I made a comment which then led to a response on the issue of Mr. Khoza and the investigation was that what that was done by the Military Ombud. My concern here, and this relates to what I said, is that despite the fact that the Military Ombud recommended disciplinary action against members of the South African National Defence Force, no one from the delegation of the Military Ombud today, including also the Military Ombud himself, Lieutenant General Masondo, can tell us whether any action had been taken. So apparently there's no follow-up, and this is my concern. There's no follow-up from the department back to the Military Ombud to tell them whether these recommendations are in fact implemented or not. And that is evidently totally unacceptable. The same problem you are faced with in terms of the answer that we were given, that a report is given to the complainant to say we've made the following recommendations. But the complainants evidently often don't get any feedback on whether those recommendations are at all going to be implemented or not. And I would like to know if the same situation prevails that seemed to have prevailed with the Khoza case, where the Military Ombud doesn't even finally get any feedback on whether these recommendations that they make get implemented. You see, Chair, a false expectation is then created with the member who laid the complaint and who received that report that something will happen. And that is putting that member in a worse case than where the member had been before. And this explains now to me why I, and I'm sure other members of this Joint Standing Committee and also the Portfolio Committee, receive calls of members who are truly distressed that they have laid complaints with the Military Ombud, that they've been told that there are certain recommendations and that nothing has happened. And I'm also not clear whether the members, when they receive this report from the Military Ombud, are actually told, look, this is totally within the discretion of the department. Our recommendations here doesn't mean that the department are indeed going to implement it, because my interaction with members has led me to the point where I get the impression that members of the SANDF are left under the wrongful impression that these recommendations must be implemented. And evidently, that is not the case. So we really need to get all of this clarified. And then my last issue, I raised a concern about the time frame for dealing with the review of the Military Ombud Act of 2012. I got some response, but it was not detailed enough in terms of timeline. And then I'm also left with some confusion. Are we now being told that it may be helpful if we introduce a private members bill, that private members bill will be able to facilitate and speed up the process? But wasn't there a clear process of review and then there would be a responsibility from the side of the executive to take action in order to be able to get this bill reviewed and to get the reviewed matter eventually tabled in Parliament, which obviously then will also involve the participation of us as a joint standing committee. If I can get clarity on these issues, Chair, I will be appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, Honorable Niehaus, the questions you are asking, I'm glad that the deputy ministers are here because, you know, some of them quite clearly it's the executive that needs to provide clarity, including on whether, because I was also concerned about the remark that it's better to get a private member's bill, because it's pretty much a statement that says that the executive will be incapable of expediting the review of the legislative framework. I know that's not what the legal director meant, but the implication is such that that will be the case. But the deputy ministers are here and they are listening to the concerns, including the first one you were raising of the compliance with the recommendations of the Military Ombud. Honorable Co-Chair, before we go to the deputy. So after Honorable Co-Chair, we will take the responses to these issues, but I think it's better that the executive who are here respond to these issues, because I sense a degree of constraint on the part of the Ombuds Office. Co-Chair?
Thank you, Chair. Mine, Chair, is on the categories of complainants. Can we have this in writing, Chair? And also, what are the reasons from the department? Why are they not processing the issues raised by members? If we can just have that in writing, Chair, so that we were able to follow up on these matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mkungo.
Yeah, just to concur with you, Chairperson, on your latter comment with regard to issues raised by Honorable Niehaus. Obviously, we will have to follow up on this matter and engage with the Ombudsman, then report back to the structure, because we can't just leave it like that. You know, it's a serious issue that Honorable Niehaus have raised. The other part that I would like to share here is that we are trying our best to make sure that we find a solution on these legislative shortfalls. That is the main core of the issue here. We are a juristic person. We have to make sure that we comply with the law. Just to also raise the fact that there could be a difference between the Ombudsman with regard to independent and the public protector, because the Ombudsman is expected to independently investigate complaints against government. I heard Honorable Niehaus commenting on that, in that is about complaints being brought and complaints being independent. No, investigated. That is the specific duty that he investigates complaints against government. In this instance, how he investigates is a process. He may investigate about things he heard about, and members as well have a right to file complaints. Public protector is well known that he has enhanced constitutional powers. Now, the issue, there was an issue about accounting to the minister. My view is that you account to a person who appoint, but more especially in the government, we know we account to the public. But this accounting is just to update us as a structure so that we report to you, account to you as well, as a structure who make us account. This thing does play a role on who pays for who. There's this thing about we've got powers of hire and fire. In this case, I think we need to review this law because, as I said, currently on the shortfall part, the ombuds plays no role in enforcing or deciding to implement a policy. Lastly, we did indicate that currently the minister is looking for legal advisor. Without legal advisor, we may use our own views. Our own views don't work without, because they must be in line with the legal obligation, not just your view. So the legal review, Military Ombud Act 212, aims to address operational and legal limitations identified in implementation. So even this issue that he has obtained approval from MOD, you'll never be sure whether the MOD have powers to approve how the Military Ombuds Act is reviewed, who has power to review it as well, But lastly, we here before you highlighted certain gaps and ambiguities that hinder its effectiveness and independence. We seek to find a solution that requires legal advice, and it's in the process, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think what the issues that the members have raised are quite crucial, which relate to the support and the level of support for the office of the Military Ombud. Because we need to ensure that this office is able to fulfill its mandate. We are aware that it is it's not the public protector's office, and there could be limitations in regards to what it can do. But I think the importance of the independence of the office, so that it doesn't rely on those who hold the budget for it to be able to function, and it's able to ensure enforcement of its decisions, is an issue that members of the committee are raising quite seriously. But secondly, the legislative amendments, in order to close the gaps, I think that the executive needs to pay urgent attention to this issue so that we don't listen to the type of frustration we are listening to the point of recommending in the presence of the executive that there should be a private member's bill, because, as I say, whilst not intended, it could mean that it's an admission that there are serious limitations from the executive level to execute this legislative amendment through relevant cabinet processes. And then there are issues of specific reports which members highlighted that have not been attended to. I think both Honorable Shelembe and Honorable Niehaus have raised the question of cases where the complainants have not even received responses. Now, this speaks directly to communication with the complainants so that at every stage they are made aware of and kept abreast of progress or lack thereof with regards to the complaints that they have raised. So we must pay attention to those issues so that a person doesn't get frustrated by the injustice they consider themselves to have experienced, and then by the lack of responsiveness from those who ought to be responding. Honorable Olomisa, I don't know if you want to comment as well before we then move on to the next item. I'm only asking because I see your mic is open.
Thank you, Chairperson and honorable members, as well as my colleague, and also to the Ombuds and his team. Welcome, General Masondo. Welcome to the club.
Thank you very much, dear.
You will recall that there was an attempted protest, or call it mutiny, by the soldiers here around 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And that process culminated in the establishment of an interim Defense Force Service Commission. I think you were still active at that time, if I'm not mistaken. But what you are saying today, you are painting the same picture of frustration where the the Defense Force Service Commission, submitted the reports to the ministry, to the SecDef, to the Chief of the Defense Force. But most of those points which were, or concerns which were identified, which relate to service conditions of the Defense Force, are still not being implemented. I'm sure you are visiting bases as members of parliament. You have been to a number of bases, and you will find that the soldiers and the infrastructure there leaves much to be desired. So what I'm trying to say, the powers of the Ombuds and the powers of the National Service Commission needs to be strengthened, because the minister is just ministers are going to receive these reports, but the implementers are the commanders, the Secretary for Defense. If you were to call or someone, maybe I think you were briefed at some stage, members of parliament, by the commission, where it said the reports are submitted, but they are never acknowledged by the Secretary for Defense and other institutions. So what I would suggest for you, if you want people like myself and Mkongi to assist you, is that when you distribute it's important when you distribute a file or submit a file to the minister, make sure that there is a position or a column for the deputy ministers so that we can assist you, because the minister sometimes he cannot run the defense force alone. Because some of the things you are saying here, you know it, you have never submitted not a single file on this in my desk. Now, in future, make sure that the circulation of your information or requests or follow-up, you also include us in that file. Lastly, this culture of non-response by the commanders and the SecDef and their staff is the same thing, their behavior they have displayed during the Auditor General's report. The Auditor General said it in black and white that we submit audit queries, but there's no response. So which means, members of parliament, there will be a time where we will have to look at the skills and the competence of some of the people who are occupying high offices. So I think I must stop there. This thing is frustrating.
Thank you. Honorable Hattie.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just on, you indicated that you want to. I've put two proposals on the table. I just would like to know what the status of those two proposals are. The first one, if you can refresh your memory, was about the Minister to provide a report to the committee about the 93 fully upheld reports. And the second one was the unimplemented recommendations coming from the Minister to the Department of Defence, that we get a report on that as well. Can I request that it be activated, or perhaps provide a way forward on that?
Honorable Niehaus.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The question that I've asked, and which you've also highlighted, unfortunately, has also now not been responded to by the executive, and that is clarity. Are they going to proceed with this amendment to the bill? It's a simple matter. When will the consultations with the stakeholders be completed? When will draft amendments for ministerial consideration be submitted? When will the proposed legislative changes be submitted for cabinet approval? And when will the proposed legislative changes be submitted for parliamentary approval? Now, if we're faced with a situation where the executive doesn't seem to have an appetite to take this up, look, I myself, as a private member, a member of parliament who can table private members' bills, I'm quite prepared to table a private member's bill if we've been told that they are not going to act. But we need to get clarity on this, and we don't get it, and the response that we have received from the executive now is not providing us with guidance, and I'm sure it's leaving also the Military Ombud frustrated and rudderless at sea. Please, can we get a response?
Chairperson, we will submit a report to the minister who has the powers to answer those questions directly. We will also ask minutes of your proceedings today from your secretariat to bring those minutes to the minister. Then the Ombud and his team and legal teams and defense legal fraternity, we will recommend that let us sit down and draw up a map of how to implement the findings or the recommendation or the wishes of the ombudsperson. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose that then addresses both the issues raised by Honorable Harting and Honorable Niehaus, but which are matters of the committee because other members of the committee have raised it. I think Honorable Olonisa we would be expecting to get a progress report in this regard within 7 working days, so that we can submit it to members for their information.
You will get it tomorrow, Chair.
Much appreciated, Deputy Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we proceed now to the next item, which is consideration of individual oversight terms of reference.
Chair, sorry to interject.
Yes.
If you allow me,
yes,
Chair, I just wanted to address the ministry.
Yes.
Just to detour a bit from our subject matter and address the ministry before we excuse them to, to leave us, because the matter which we are going to discuss do not necessarily concern them. I don't know whether you can give me. I want to address the ministry on the issue of a budget, or the medium-term budget policy statement. I don't know whether you can allow me, Chair.
Honorable Chair, I'm worried, I'm concerned about time and the fact that that item is not on the agenda, which was adopted at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, no, it's fine. We'll deal with it next time. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chair, can we stand down from the proceedings since we are done with our presentation?
Yes, you may stand down.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you so much, Ombud. I think you and your team must go away with the understanding that you have the full support of the committee for the work you have to do. Our discussions have to do with providing your office with the full capacity and support it requires to be able to undertake its responsibilities and fulfill your mandate. So we will do our best working with the ministry to address the shortcomings that we have all identified. And I think we're all at one as to what types of shortcomings there are and how we need to address them. But we implore your office to improve the internal administrative mechanisms and capacity, such as communicating timeously with the complainants, including where there have not been responses from the military, so that people are kept abreast of developments on the issues they have raised with your office. We thank you very much for your cooperation and for always being candid with us. You may stand down, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for the support of the committee.
Shabong.
Then we go to individual oversight terms of reference. I don't know, Velem, I suppose this is you.
Good morning, Chair, and morning to all members. Yes, this is, I will be presenting it. Can you see the screen with the proposed guidelines?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, co-chairs, and to all members. Members may recall a few months ago, this problem actually started around the need for guidelines and more clarity around individual oversight visits. And this followed several problems with visits. Mr. Harting, you'll recall your visit to the Directorate for Conventional Arms Control as a prime example. And Mr. Nias also made input in this regard, but that's the background to it. And then on the side of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, there was a request for a legal opinion on this matter. And based on there were some concerns raised by members as well during the presentation of this legal opinion. And subsequently, a decision was taken that the committee develops its own guidelines to conduct such oversight visits for individual members. So this is the first draft, members, first attempt at this, and I'll take you through it, and then members are welcome to give input and see how we can best take this forward. So in terms of the introduction, I'll take members through the various segments as we get to it. In terms of the introduction, the main underpinning factor here is that the joint rules of Parliament empowers joint committees to determine their own working arrangements. So that is the foundation within which these guidelines were developed, in that there is rules within Parliament that allows committees to determine their own working arrangements, such as these guidelines. Further guiding documentation, of course, the interim constitution was used because that clarifies the role of the Joint Standing Committee of Defence. The Constitution was used. There was reference to the Control and Access to Public Premises and Vehicles Act, also the Defence Act, and of course the Joint Rules of Parliament. There's also reference to the legal opinion that was received by the Portfolio Committee, and then the Portfolio Committee on Police Guidelines for Individual Oversight Visits. That's one of the only other committees that have developed such guidelines in recent times. So we took a page from their book to complete this as well. Then just a exclusion there. This guidelines developed in this document does not extend to the visiting of facilities that are classified as critical infrastructure under the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act once such a definitive list is published. So this is just a preemptive strike that currently there's no definitive list of critical infrastructure in the country based on the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act. But once that is in place, such facilities will have its own legislation guiding access to such facilities, which might impact on this guidelines. It's very unlikely that many defence facilities will fall under that Critical Infrastructure Protection Act, but in a case where it does, that will have to be adhered to under that legislation. Then the general powers of the committee, we just highlight here the functions of the Joint Standing Committee of Defence as per the interim constitution, which includes the right to investigate. So individual oversight visits for committee members is part of that investigation. So we also note Rule 80 of the Joint Rules of Parliament and the general rules of committee members, of committees. Then we look at legislative provisions affecting defence oversight visits. There was the legal opinion, which specifically stated that Defence Act applies only to members of the Defence Force insofar as it relates to access to military facilities. The legal opinion stated that the Act does not make provision for members of public or members of Parliament to access designated military areas. However, they did point out in this Act, in this legal opinion, that the Control of Access to Public Premises and Vehicles Act of 1985 applies to any structure or building under control of the state. So this would extend to the Department of Defence. Premises of the Department of Defence fit this definition, therefore, and the Act empowers the owner of any public premises to take such steps as may be necessary for safeguarding of those premises, irrespective of any rights or obligations to the contrary. So this is just to highlight from the legal opinion the powers of the minister as owner of these facilities in this regard, and we will get to that later again. Then the objectives and the intent of the guidelines, just highlighting the purpose of the guidelines, the scope of application, noting that it shall apply to all members of Parliament serving on the Joint Standing Committee of Defence, and it provides two definitions for defence facilities. Defence facilities falling under the Department of Defence, which includes military bases and affiliated structures such as the offices of the Military Ombud, Defence Force Service Commission, and the Reserve Force Council. And then similarly, or separate definition around defence entities are entities under the oversight mandate of the Joint Standing Committee of Defence, which would include Arms Corps Denel, the Castle of Good Hope, and the Directorate Conventional Arms Control. Principles of oversight for members to consider when they go on individual oversight visits include principles such as transparency and accountability, respect for confidentiality, non-interference, and ethical conduct. And now to get to the practicalities of it, members, what we propose here is a notification and authorization. So members intending to conduct an individual oversight visit to the Department of Defense facility should notify the Chief of Staff of the South African National Defence Force at least 30 minutes prior to arrival via WhatsApp, SMS, or through a telephone call. Then members intending to conduct an individual visit to Department of Defense facility must inform at least one of the co-chairpersons of this committee as well. So those two requirements for any defense facility. Visiting a defense entity, there will be a requirement for notifying the relevant CEO of the visit at least 30 minutes prior to arrival using WhatsApp, SMS, or through a telephone call. And lastly, members may not be denied entry to a defense facility unless under the explicit instruction from the Minister of Defense as owner of such a facility under the control of the Access to Public Premises and Vehicles Act. So this is to align the committee with the legislative requirement, but there needs to be explicit instruction from the minister, and that is then an aspect that members can take up with the committee, and the committee can engage the minister on if there was such an explicit instruction to refuse entry. Section 6.2, the procedure for conducting individual oversight visits. Upon arrival, members must identify themselves to the officer commanding or the senior officer on duty by presenting their official parliamentary access cards. Members must always be accompanied by the officer commanding or the appropriately designated official throughout the oversight visit. Members are required to comply with all security protocols. And then section 6.3, and members are welcome to also give input on this section. But in terms of limitations, and this is based on some observations and some from previous instances, and also legal requirements such as the POPI Act that has to be considered. So these are proposed limitations we can set in place for members. Firstly, members shall refrain from taking photographs or video recordings of any area, installation, or equipment designated as sensitive by the officer commanding or the appropriately designated official in charge accompanying the visit. Second, members are prohibited from engaging in live broadcasting or live streaming of visits, especially within the military facilities. Outside a military facility might be another story, but when entering a military facility or military entity, that is a proposed limitation. Number C, individual members are not authorized to access or enter weapons storage facilities within military bases. Number D, members may not request or attempt to handle weapons, vehicles, or any other military equipment during such visits. Next, individual oversight visits shall not be conducted in areas where active military operations are taking place. And this is to link, this limitation links to the requirement for non-interference. But there is a way to do this. The committee-sanctioned visits we propose to operational areas may, however, be arranged where conditions are deemed safe and feasible and through proper liaison with the department. So it's not a total taboo, but rather through a committee avenue rather than an individual avenue. Next, members may not drive personal or non-approved vehicles within the facility unless expressly cleared. Individual oversight visits may not extend to the private South African defense industry. These include defense companies in which state-owned enterprises under the JSCD oversight hold only a minority shareholding, such as Rheinmetall, Denel, and Hensoldt. Engagements with such entities should rather be arranged through committee level. That's a proposal, members and co-chairs, that this be done at committee level, purely for the fact that these are private institutions and different rules of access and oversight guide such private institutions. Lastly, when visiting defense facilities or defense entities, members shall not request information or paperwork regarding tender processes under consideration. This aligns with the confidentiality considerations of bid processes as per the National Treasury Circular on the Code of Conduct for Bid Adjudication Committees. Section 6.4, information and reporting. Where deemed applicable, members may submit an oversight report to the committee. So if members wish, as following their oversight visits, they may report to the committee. Consideration on public dissemination. Even where an officer commanding or the appropriately designated official allow photos or videos to be taken, members are advised to carefully consider security, legal, and ethical implications of publishing or sharing any images, videos, or documents obtained during the visit, especially where such materials may compromise the operational security of the SANDF, reveal the identities of personnel, and impact on national security interests. When developing oversight notes on individual report, when developing oversight notes and reports on these individual visits, members are advised to carefully also consider the security, legal, and ethical implications of publishing such data. Lastly, sharing of potential operationally sensitive information with the committee as found during an oversight visit must be arranged through the chairperson to facilitate a closed session. This might be a case where members observe something that needs to be brought to the attention of the committee for follow-up, but it might be potentially operationally sensitive to the SANDF and members might not want to share this publicly. Then the suggestion is to take it to the chairpersons who can then take this forward. In terms of challenges and disputes, any conflicts or disputes arising during an oversight visit, such as the refusal of entry to a defense facility or defense entity, must immediately be reported to the co-chairpersons of the committee for appropriate intervention and resolution in line with parliamentary protocols. Lastly, we just make a statement on reviews and amendments. These guidelines will be reviewed periodically, and also that they remain subject to any changes in the parliamentary rules. Members may recall that the Portfolio Committee actually requested the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Rules Committee of the National Assembly to consider rules for such oversight visits. And until such a time, these guidelines will be in place. But if there are rules that Parliament puts in place and is adopted, then those rules will supersede the current guidelines that's being developed. Then lastly, in terms of adoption, the suggestion, chair members, and a similar process was followed by the Police Committee, is to get members' input on this and refine it, and then send it to the Department of Defense just for their input. And then the committee can consider that input as well. It doesn't have to be that the committee adopts that input, but just to give them an opportunity, because there might be something we miss, something quite straightforward. And such input can be considered by the committee, and thereafter a final version can be adopted perhaps in the last week of 2025, and our last meeting of 2025. So, Chair, I'll hand back to you, but suffice to say, this is a draft. It's something quite novel for parliamentary committees. Yes, the Police Committee has something similar, but I think the defense environment is slightly different and has slightly different security risks associated with it. But suffice to say, this is a first draft, and I'm happy to take members' input on this first draft. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. van Rensburg, Honorable Niehaus, and Honorable Harting.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to comment too much in detail about the proposal as it stands here, because I've got a suggestion on how we should proceed with this. We may be aware that after we have raised these concerns, and I believe that there had been complaints, not just because of the experiences of myself and Mr. Hutton having been prevented to enter certain Defence Force facilities, the matter had been referred to the Speaker. And this issue is currently under discussion by the subcommittee on the review of assembly rules. So I serve as one of the members of the Economic Freedom Fighters on that subcommittee. So I'm aware that there is an ongoing discussion which will soon result in a final report that is going to be submitted to the Speaker. What I can tell you at this stage is that from the side of some of the parties represented in that subcommittee, and that includes ourselves, the Economic Freedom Fighters, but also the position of the Democratic Alliance, there's a very, very strong view that there should be no advance permission requested for either committee or for individual unannounced oversight visits, and that in fact, if such a route is taken, it could be challenged as unconstitutional. So what I would suggest, Chair, before we go into the details of what we have here, is that whatever we are working on here should also be channeled to the subcommittee on the review of assembly rules. Because as it has pointed out by our researcher, anything that we propose here will ultimately be subject to the rules of the Assembly as it is adopted by the Committee on Assembly Rules. And as I've said, there's currently the Subcommittee on Assembly Rules seized with this issue, and soon such a report will be tabled with the Speaker. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Niehaus. Just for clarity, are you suggesting that we don't discuss this until that discussion with the Speaker by the other involving all parties takes place?
Not really, Chair. What I'm suggesting is that we are proposing here, and that we shouldn't really take it to the point that we formally adopt it, that we take these suggestions and feed them into that channel of the subcommittee on the review of assembly rules, so that they're aware of our thinking also on this issue. As I say, I'm a member of that subcommittee representing the Economic Freedom Fighters, but I cannot go and speak on behalf of this subcommittee, of this Joint Standing Committee. I can only speak on behalf of my political party that I represent there. What I suggest is that we say, look, these are the issues that we are grappling with. This is the document we work with. Can we also make you aware of it? And you take into consideration the issues that we are raising here when you come up with the final report that you are going to present to the Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Honorable Harting, followed by Honorable Blackies.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps just a brief comment on the way forward as was put on the table by Honourable Niehaus. I don't strongly believe that the document in its current form should go nowhere. And I'll come to it why. Unless we have considered it in detail and also have evaluate the input of members before we do such a thing. Chair, this report proposes constitutionally compliant amendment. Let's just look at it before I come to the intentions. The intention of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence to standardise oversight visits is welcomed. However, certain of these clauses, specifically in Section 5 and 6, unintentionally restrict members of parliament in ways inconsistent with the constitution and establish parliamentary regulations and law. So it actually is restrictive rather than facilitating and supporting oversight. And it places the executive in a position, I think, which they would welcome, to control and restrict the very oversight that Parliament is constitutionally obliged to perform by requiring advance notice, prohibiting unannounced inspections, limiting access to facilities and information, even allowing the minister to deny members entry into military bases. It creates an executive gatekeeping mechanism over parliamentary oversight. This is in conflict and violates Section 42, 3, 55, 2, and 56 of the Constitution, which empower Parliament to see the executive, not seeks its permission. These provisions amount to a deliberate and unconstitutional attempt to weaken accountability, shield the defence establishment from scrutiny, and subordinate Parliament's authority to ministerial discretion. This cannot lawfully stand, and it will certainly be challenged if this is accepted. Now, Chair, I can go. I've got amendments and comments on each one of the three sections within Section 5, as well as each of the 6 sections in Section 6. And I think I will take about 40 minutes or so to go through it. And that's what it will take to give justice to this document that is present before us, specifically in view that it will go out of the domain of this committee, also then further into the parliamentary mechanisms. So, Chair, I would rather propose, and I'm sure other members will also need some time to go through the different clauses and to propose their own amendments. I would propose that a different mechanism perhaps be applied in this committee, where we now have the proposed document, the initial one, which I may perhaps say that it didn't really take into account the comments of committee members when we had in the portfolio committee the so-called legal opinion from the parliamentary law advisors on the same issue. So I would rather suggest that we provide a written input on this issue rather than take it now through a very, very lengthy clause-by-clause process to take the process further. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I take, look, as I see it, the proposal you are making and the one made by Honorable Niehaus are not mutually exclusive. But I think we will come to that at the end of the discussion. Honorable Blackies, followed by Honorable Shaleme.
Chair, I think we must not delay ourselves for too long. What we should maybe in this meeting say that we know there is now a document. We will engage with the document. We will give our written inputs. But we must not actually spread it broader than this committee for now. We keep it in the committee. We give ourselves time frame to respond to the document. We then re-present the document with the inputs. And we maybe if we adopt it and move it then to other channels as the talk is proposing. We move it to the defense. We move it to the committee that Comrade Kyle are talking about. But for now, Chair, let's note this document. There is now a document that is work in progress. Let's work on it. Those who want to give input, give their written input, and we see how we move forward in the committee. We give the committee time frame so that we can come back, so it don't become an open-ended issue also. We say we will give feedback. When is the feedback supposed to be given? So I think that is the details that we must deal with, Chair. But I think we must only know the report now and say that it's a working document. We'll work on it and give our input. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Blackies. Honorable Shalembe, followed by Honorable Gotzel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, I mean, it may be difficult now. One needs to think now. If we note the document, it means now we understand what is inside. I don't know how to go about, because on my side, well, I can acknowledge receipt of the document, but have a concern. You see, like the issue of 30 days notice that is in the document. It's very, very difficult. Say if something, happens today, and then you want to go and do oversight and see what's happening, then you need to wait for 30 days until, all the damage or something has been cleared. For me, I'm not in a position, to accept, but I will support the recommendation that we are given an opportunity, to make our contribution in the document and our consent in the document. Maybe I'll need a better, explanation. How do we go about noting or accepting or adopting? What implication does it have? Should we now say we note it before, putting our input? I'll need a guidance on that one. But in its current form, well, it's not, assisting us when doing our real oversight. Because sometimes you may write to them if they say, well, they're on that day they are not available. You see, it's something like you need permission. You are not, going to do an oversight when you need to. But let me leave it, to other members. But I'm concerned if we can adopt it in its current form. Thank you, Chairperson.
I don't think anyone has suggested it must be adopted. I think what members are saying that it must be noted as a discussion document for the committee, that different members of the committee parties make their comments on the proposed document. But let me take Honorable Godsell, and Honorable Niehaus suggested that whilst that happens, we must be mindful of another process that is involving the speaker, and that we try to synchronize both processes so that we have a more synchronized outcome. Honorable Godsell, followed by Honorable Niehaus.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to everyone. I agree with the proposals by the previous speakers. And just further to the process that is currently being undertaken by the Speaker, I would also suggest that that we do not table this for consideration until such time also as the ethics complaint has been concluded, where Honourable Harting and myself were blocked from doing oversight, because I think that will also, the outcome of that will offer a valuable insight into a document such as this. And my further proposal would just be that this document, for the time being, is understood by all to just be a draft. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Niehaus.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't think we're really saying different things.
Yes.
And what I would propose is that we treat this document as a discussion document. I've certainly got serious problems with this document. 6.1A and D, as the economic freedom fighters, we will not accept. And I think it limits us. But I don't want to go into those details now. The issue is, let's discuss it. But all I would like to ask is that we ask you as joint chairs of this committee to also inform formally the subcommittee on the review of assembly rules that we are busy with this discussion. And then that subcommittee can decide whether they want to hear what our thoughts are or not. on this issue. Because you see, Chair, ultimately, it is about what supersedes the other. And once this process of the subcommittee on the review of Assembly rules proceeds, goes to the Speaker, and eventually there is a proposal culminating from there, we may very well find that any of the ideas that we have is now superseded by that process. So perhaps just informing the subcommittee that we are involved in this discussion with a discussion document may be a sensible thing to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Niehaus. I think that is a sensible proposal emanating from the discussion. That we note the document, we inform that committee. I keep forgetting its name, Honorable Niehaus.
Subcommittee on the review of Assembly rules.
Yes. That we inform it, and then we also give them sight of the document that we are discussing. Honorable Noor.
Thank you, Chair. Good day, honorable members. My just question, when I agree with the proposed process, what will be the status quo? Will that then suggest, or it means no visits will be undertaken while these two processes are still in place? And in other words, what will be the understanding of our role on our mandate as far as that is concerned? Will there be an interim measure that will be applicable, or we leave it until those two processes are completed?
That's a good question. Ordinarily, it would be said that the status quo remains until there is finality and clarification. But the problem is that we're having this discussion because the status quo is not clear. So I see Honorable Niehaus has raised his hand. I take him.
Thank you, Chair. We really don't have any other option but to say that the status quo prevails. Obviously, the fact that we have these discussions show that the status quo is not satisfactory, but we cannot impose on ourselves as members of Parliament now a voluntary seizure of oversight visits and therefore suspend the critical work that we have to do. So we'll fight it out as it comes on this issue. And if further contradictions are highlighted by this unsatisfactory status quo, hopefully that will help to proceed with these processes that are going on now with greater urgency. But for now, I don't think it's within our ability, Chair, to say that we suspend what we have to do. The process is on the go, and the status quo has to prevail, which allows us to do oversight visits, and the challenges that we will face as they come in the field. Thank you.
Honorable Hala.
No, thanks, Chair. Chair, I was going to suggest that we respect the status quo as it is until further notice. Otherwise, if we defy what is being said, we'll find ourselves on the wrong side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. I think we have a decision on the issue. What I will request is that Dr. Van Rensburg drafts a letter for us to the committee. Honorable Niehaus was talking about making them aware and submitting this for their notice and consideration as well. That it doesn't, and clarify, it doesn't reflect a decision of the Joint Standing Committee, but it's a discussion document that we are considering and indicates that we want to align the processes and the frameworks, so that we don't act outside what Parliament will conclude, mindful of the fact that we are dealing with a security environment where some of the issues which might pertain to other committees might not, in the case of the security environment in which we are involved. But that meanwhile the status quo remains and we will manage it. I think we also need to highlight to them the urgency to provide finalization and clarity on the matter, so that oversight work is not inhibited. And we will try to the best of our ability to manage any difficulties which might arise as members conduct oversight at different facilities and entities. Thank you. That's the way forward. We proceed now to consider the Limpopo Joint Oversight Draft Report.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I share that, Chair, can I take it as well from the previous discussions that members will submit written input? They can send it to myself, and then I'll work on a second draft.
Indeed.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that, and thank you to members for seeing this. What it is. It's a working document. This was simply an attempt to get something on the table as a start for the discussions. This is ultimately members' document and members' preferences that have to be reflected in the final guidelines for the document. So I'm happy to work on the subsequent drafts and incorporate members' input. Chair, on the next matter, can you see the shared screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, I'll take you through the draft report. It was distributed to members. So I'll just make some highlights from the report. It's the draft report on the oversight visit to military bases in the Limpopo province, as well as the border deployments. Firstly, provides a quick background to the oversight visit, as I just mentioned, the purpose of the oversight visit, and then highlights the committee members and support staff that were present during the visit, as well as some members from the ministry and senior SANDF officials. Then in terms of the visit to the Air Force Base Makaro, which was the first facility that was visited, this provides an overview of what was presented during the session we had at Air Force Base Makaro. Then in terms of observations and engagements from the members during that engagement at the Air Force Base, just some highlights to highlight here. Members noticed the deteriorating state of the SA Air Force fighter capability. Members also noted that this poses a strategic risk to the country's air defense capability. Members also focused on the issue of underfunding, and noted that if this underfunding persists, then we should ultimately be required to consider scaling down SA Air Force missions, as there will be no capacity to execute this. There's also observations around the aging technology systems, specifically on the Gripen fleet, and the regular loss of South African Air Force pilots due to limited flying hours, which impacted their morale and higher paid opportunities elsewhere. The committee then conducted a walkabout of the facilities, if members may recall as well, which was included here. Lastly, our second visit was a visit to 15th Psy Battalion. There was a presentation on 50th Psy Battalion, which is summarized there, and then just some highlights from the observations and engagements that the committee had. Members mentioned the security fence that broke down, and this is actually a repeat observation from many military facilities, but there's issues raised around the security fencing there, around vacant uniform posts in the base. There was also observations around soldiers who were critically injured in the DRC, and questions around trauma counseling for those soldiers. Another important observation was around 275 personnel at the unit who are additional to the structure. There were some observations around the racial distribution of recruitment within the unit, and equipping of soldiers during the deployment to the DRC, I think, was one of the major discussion points during the day. And this also came out in this next session, which was a closed session with soldiers on deployments and conditions. It's referred to as a closed session here because it excluded the commanders of the unit and spoke to the rank group private corporal on their experience in the DRC, and a broad overview of what they indicated during that session is captured here. There was also a walkabout of the facility. And the next day, members may recall, we visited the borders. The first day started with a briefing at the Joint Tactical HQ Limpopo. And there's an overview provided of the information shared during that engagement. Observations and engagements following that presentation, members focused on the deployment periods, where some members have extended deployment periods, which might not be desirable. Members made a positive observation around the condition of the Joint Tactical Headquarters itself, which was very clean and well maintained. There was also, members made observations around the SANDF had inadequate personnel and equipment to effectively patrol the borderline. This came out very early during the discussions. And specifically, members focused on the issues around capability shortcomings, such as vehicles, facilities, and equipment, which hinders its effectiveness in preventing illegal crossings. The committee then proceeded to visit the actual borderline. There were some additional observations during this visit. The committees noted the very poor state of the road along the border. Members also noted expressed their dissatisfaction at the state of SAND facilities. Members may recall the echo stations that we visited that was in a very poor state. Then the committees noted that soldiers deployed under Operation Corona along the around Beitbridge borderline are not sufficiently equipped. The tents provided are no longer serviceable. Issues around water supply and electricity supply from generators, which are limited. There's some observations around SANDF members resorting to buy their own equipment. Some examples included soldiers buying their own boots and tents, and even operational equipment like binoculars and night vision equipment was procured by soldiers themselves. Again, the committee expressed its concern around the borderline fence, which many members refer to as a washing line along the border, but that observation came out several times during the visit. The committees noted there were insufficient vehicles to patrol the borders. Members also noted engagements between Zimbabwe and Botswana and South African counterparts on a quarterly basis. And while members noted the drones operated by Defence Intelligence, there was a general observation around the lack of widespread tactical technology, such as drones operated by deployed sections or UAVs or ground-based radar systems. And some members also noted that some of this technology was seen as produced in South Africa during members' previous visit to the African Aerospace and Defence Expo in 2024. There's a lot of technology solutions produced in the country that members observed there, which are not in place along the actual borders. The following day, there was a briefing by the Border Management Authority, and this is captured here, the main points raised by the Border Management Authority. Some key observations that members highlighted was the need to conduct lifestyle audits for BMA members, that these members observed limited efforts or commitments to addressing organized crime along the borders. There's also the need for a project management committee between the various role players. Members made a significant observations around the issues around villages cropping up along the border, which impacts on the ability of the various state agencies to actually implement border control. And members also observed that there seems to be a good working relationship between the BMA and the SANDF, as far as they stated. Some facility constraints that was observed as well was that there was, for example, only one cargo scanner at Beitbridge border post, which hinders effectiveness. So members, based on these observations, there's some recommendations made here in 3 sections. The first is sort of broader recommendations that focuses on broader aspects, not on a specific day's visit. And then there's one or two recommendations related to the specific bases or areas that was visited. In terms of the broad overarching recommendations, firstly, the committees are of the view that the SANDF is at a crossroads and that an urgent decision on the way forward is required. From its observations at the various units, it is evident that the maintenance of the status quo will result in widespread capability collapse. The committees believe that either one, a significant but gradual defence funding injection should be made for improvement over time, or two, defence ambitions be permanently adjusted to the fiscal realities. And I think, Chair, Mr. Gawa, you added here, I added in red for consideration by the committee, but it was said that, however, given the country's regional responsibilities, ambitions, and challenges, the committees do not support the latter opinion, meaning a scaling down of defence ambition. Central to this need for clarity on whether the 2015 Defence Review has been abandoned in light of the new policy directives such as the Journey to Greatness and the Defence Capstone documents. The committees will consider a closed meeting with the DoD for a thorough overview of the draft policy documents. The 2026 MTF outlook should reflect the decision on the way forward in terms of defence policy and planning. So this recommendation here, a closed meeting with the DoD on the policy documents, that reflects previous observations by members that we need such a meeting. And I think the aim here is then to have this adopted and also prioritize this early in 2026. The second broad recommendation, the committee expresses their frustration and displeasure at the unacceptable lack of basic equipment for soldiers, especially those being deployed. Quality boots, uniforms, weapons, and serviceable vehicles should be the minimum requirement for any military force. The committee therefore insists on a back-to-basics approach with the funding reprioritization by the DoD to focus on the absolute essential tasks and equipment provision. Next, the DoD is to develop a comprehensive asset disposal plan to sell unnecessary or unserviceable non-critical assets. The plan should be consulted with National Treasury and submitted to Parliament as part of the 2026 Annual Performance Plan, with the undertaking by National Treasury that funds will be returned to the DoD for strategic investment. The next proposed recommendation, the committees recommend engagements between the DoD and National Treasury to consider the development of special procurement regulations, specifically for all military operations sanctioned under the Constitution or Defence Act, as slow procurement procedures impact on operational momentum and effectiveness. And then a broad recommendation that the committees recommend a parliamentary debate in both houses on its observations during the visits and the recommendations made herein. Then to more specific recommendations, recommendations related to the SA Air Force. Firstly, the committees remain highly concerned about the state of the SA Air Force's fighter capability. Of further concern is the potential loss of capability of the fighter fleet in the near future, should intervention not be forthcoming. The committees therefore recommend thorough engagement between the SANDF, the Air Force, and National Treasury to ensure the provision of ring-fence funding for the maintenance of, at the very least, a minimum viable fighter capability over the medium term. Next, in addition to the above, the committee recommends engagement between the SANDF and National Treasury on the long-term fighter planning and funding, the potential loss of economic value, and the non-availability of funds for the grip and midlife upgrades brings into question the long-term viability of these aircraft and the SA Air Force's fighter aircraft requirements. And the last recommendation, the committee encourages the SA Air Force to search for funding optimization measures where feasible, including, for example, fighter training outsourcing, offering foreign training assistance at cost, etc. Those were some of the recommendations discussed with leadership during the visit. The next recommendations relate to 15th Cyber Battalion. Only one additional recommendation there is that the committee noted with concern 275 people additional to the structure at the unit. The committees also noted that most of them are awaiting pension or are unwilling to be transferred to other units. In addition, a fair number of non-deployable personnel were noted, many of them close to retirement age as well. And this speaks to the need for an earlier responsible exit mechanism for soldiers and doing away with the soldier for life concept, which has been called for by the Portfolio Committee over the last 2 years. The committees therefore reiterate the need for the Department of Defense and National Treasury to jointly develop a funded rejuvenation strategy that will provide a permanent responsible exit or transfer mechanism for soldiers that will not advance in their military careers. And this was also the discussion members may recall during last week's meeting, the closed meeting, and limited progress in this regard is still the status quo. Lastly, recommendations related to border safeguarding. The committees recommend that the Minister of Finance and National Treasury, in consultation with the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, prioritize the allocation of funding to increase SANDF border safeguarding deployments from the current 15 subunits to the targeted 22 subunits. The DoD should develop a priority list of safeguarding units so that the most in need can be supported first. The recommendation is made in the context of a reduction of foreign deployment commitments, which provides an opportunity to reallocate resources towards strengthening national border security. Effective border safeguarding directly supports the implementation of the MTDP, Strategic Priority 3, which is effective border safeguarding, identified as one of the 12 strategic outcomes for the defense sector. The committee therefore urges that funding provisions be made to progressively implement the expansion from 2026-27 to ensure that the SANDF can fulfill its constitutional mandate to safeguard the territorial integrity of the Republic, curb cross-border crime, and enhance national security. In addition to the above, National Treasury should consider the continued ring-fence funding of border safeguarding technology as a force multiplier for border safeguarding deployments. And we did see some of this come already being put into place in the medium-term budget announced on Wednesday, but this recommendation can stand as this is a continued call for continued ring-fenced funding. The next recommendation is that the DoD should provide the committees in writing with a planned technology procurement list for border safeguarding over the medium term and whether these planned acquisitions are funded. The report should also provide a detailed overview of how the 2020 allocation by National Treasury of $225 million for border safeguarding technology procurement was spent. And this report should be submitted by 30 January next year. Next is the committees will refer this report to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence for further consideration. It is evident that the border environment is characterized by high levels of cross-border crime orchestrated by organized crime syndicates. The committee requests that the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence investigates the crime intelligence efforts and capabilities along the borders, specifically around Beitbridge. The committee recommends that these be enhanced in order to address high levels of crime in the area. Next is the SANDF, through its Defence Works Formation, should prioritize the repair and maintenance of echo stations. Maintenance and repair efforts with timelines should be provided for in the 2026 annual performance plan. Next, the committees recommend that the SANDF consider the development of riverine patrol boats to patrol the river area around Beitbridge, where possible, to deter crossing by illegal ferries or rafts, which was one of the observations that members made there. And lastly, the committees recommend that the Department of Defense enhance cooperation with SAPS, other security agencies, and relevant local authorities to curb illegal activities and prevent the proliferation of unlawful settlements along the borderline. Just the last observation there is that the committees wish to that the chairperson is also included in this. I think an important aspect to include is that the committees wish to take their hats off and salute all our hardworking, ethical, and well-meaning officers, both within the SANDF and other border management stakeholders, for their sterling work on behalf of their country in their respective assignment, regardless of the severe funding shortages experienced by the SANDF. In addition, the committees wish to thank the organizers in the SANDF for their assistance in making the oversight visit possible. The visits were very well prepared for at the various units and in operational areas and aligned with the stated requirements and intentions of the committee. Chair, I'll hand back. I'm happy to take any input on observations, recommendations, anything on the report, and specifically on the recommendations part. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Doctor, and the team that took notes of the copious notes of our visit and recorded it to produce this report. Honorable members, herewith is the report presented before you. Do we have any additions to the report or move for the adoption of the report?
Chair, I will move for the adoption.
Honorable Harting moves for the adoption of the report.
Chair, I will second.
Honorable Plakis seconds. Honorable Hala thirds. Thank you very much, honorable members. This takes us now to the minutes. Oh, sorry, the discussion. So, item number 6, Honorable Noah.
Chair, I was just checking in terms of the processing of the report after being adopted based on the recommendations. Do we have any framework that we are going to be processing the recommendations as far as the report is concerned any other time? How are we going to deal with the whole thing? I have some suggestion. I don't know whether I should put them forward now or let me wait first for your response.
Dr. van Rensburg.
Chair, in brief, the report having been adopted, it will be ATC, so it will be a tabled document within Parliament, and then there's always the possibility of having this debated. It's also a resolution in the document. So I think a letter from yourselves as chair to the various the speaker and the House chairperson of the NCOP will drive that agenda. So I think in terms of short-term outcomes, there's 3 things. Firstly, it will be a tabled report of Parliament. Secondly, letters to call for a debate on this report. And thirdly, this recommendations will be sent to the ministry with the various deadlines as contained in the report for their feedback, and we will track that going forward.
Thank you. Honorable Nue, does that...
Yes, Chair, it does clarify. But on top of that, Chair, especially at the end, submission of Dr. van Rensburg in terms of the processing of the report. Chair, I have this to propose to the committee that we have seen it all, we have listened. We might not have been to all of the defense bases in the country, but we have engaged with the leadership at the national level of the defense as well as the ministry. And the challenges that we have come across, I think this report highlights the very deep-seated challenges within the defense. Chair, in that regard, I don't know if this is possible or this is something that we can consider or whether it is within the framework of processing such reports or engagement within Parliament and the executive. That I think having consulted or engaged with everyone else within the defense, there is one door that we still need to, or we have to, or consider to approach, which is the number 1 of defense in the name of the president of the country. That whether the president himself is aware of all these challenges that we have picked up or that the defense is sitting with in the manner in which we have been exposed to. And to what extent has the president has been given a chance also to probably engage on this matters, and what is his stand of view? And my feeling is that as this committee, and we include in terms of the processing of this report as a pinnacle of our engagement, we sought a meeting with the president, or the report served before the president, and we have a feedback that will then show us that at least these matters are indeed receiving necessary attention at the highest office, to show how serious we have come to understand the challenges of the defense, to an extent that we have resolved to go outside the country and begin to learn from outside countries regarding funding of the defense. Before we do that, will it not be something to consider to engage with the president or the presidency for that matter? Thank you, Chair.
The difficulty, Honorable Noah, is that the report relates to our visit to Limpopo. And the issue you are raising is a broader issue which has to do with the discussion we had with the Ministers of Finance and Defense last week in Cape Town. I think we wouldn't want to suggest meeting the president solely on the Limpopo visit, because we still haven't gone to the other provinces to see the other border areas. My suggestion is that we, in processing our discussion last week with the Ministers of Defense, which has to do with the broader issue of defense capabilities and the funding of our defense force, that's the issue under which we can raise the proposal you are making. I think it was suggested at the meeting last week, even though we didn't formalize it. But I think it would also give us comfort to get legal opinion on how it could be done. Because whether it should be done, I think it's something that we all recognize. But how it could be done is a matter that the committee must be legally advised on. I don't know from you, Dr. van Rensburg, what you would suggest in that regard.
Chair, two things. I think ultimately it's a decision of the committee how they wish to proceed and engage on the matter. But in terms of the report, a quick win could be at least the submission of the report once it's tabled, accompanied by a letter by yourselves as chairpersons, perhaps to the presidency, noting that the committee also wishes to bring this report under the attention of the president, and we make that submission along with the report to the presidency. That could be a quick win, but perhaps on the way forward, ultimately, members may decide who and how they wish to engage.
Well, perhaps if that's the case, we could add a request to meet the president on the broader issue of defense funding, because obviously the challenges faced at the border areas have to do with the lack of capabilities within the National Defense Force. So we will take that suggestion by Honorable Noe forward in that way, as you've suggested, with the addition that we would request a meeting with the president. Honorable Niehaus.
Yeah, very quickly, Chair. I'm not commenting on the report because for health reasons I wasn't there. But this proposal that now came from the Honorable Noe and that you have amended to some extent, taking into consideration that it's a much broader issue, is an important one. So I would like to second the proposal that we request a meeting with the President. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. The proposal is therefore seconded. We proceed to the item 6, which was added. It was not initially on the proposed agenda for this meeting, but given that the SANDF is currently preparing the next rotation of forces to the DRC as part of the Operation Mistral, which is the UN mission. We felt that the matter should be introduced for adoption to be on the agenda of the 5th December. So we're not proposing that we discuss the issue today. Members must bear in mind that the current presidential letter of deployment expires on 31 January 2026 and is likely to fall within the parliamentary recess period. So for the committee to be proactive and to address concerns around force readiness, we are proposing that we add this item on the agenda of the 5th December so that the SANDF and the department can best prepare a briefing to us on readiness and logistical support for Operation Mistral rotation. Honorable Niehaus.
I think it's an excellent proposal, Chair. We don't want to be faced with the same problems that we were faced with last year. And yeah, I would like to second this proposal. As you said, we are not now discussing it, but it will be on the agenda for the 15th of December. Or is it the 5th of December? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the 5th of December. I second that proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, members. Is there any view to the contrary? There being none,
No, Chair.
Thank you. All members support the proposal. We now go to the minutes of the previous meeting. Sorry, on the meeting of the 7th January, November, 7th November last week, may I request Honorable Pala to take us through, as I was not present at the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. And good afternoon, honourable members. Still a good day. Yes, honourable members, I think we have gone. I think we are all of us have gone through this minutes. Can we just move page by page? And if there's any thing which is missing here on members, just indicate. You don't have to raise your hand. Yeah, there you are. Those are the minutes, honorable members. Can anyone let's speak on the minutes, honorable members. Is there anything which you want us to consider on these minutes?
Chair, absence of that, I propose we accept the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, I second Honorable Tatang. No here.
Thank you, members. The minutes are duly considered, and those are the reflections of our engagement. Chair, I don't know, do you want me to proceed with?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. Let me once again appreciate the robust discussions by members on all issues on our agenda, starting from the Ombud's presentation on aggrieved members. There are things of concern which they were mentioned by the officials there, the issues of pension. When members are aggrieved by pension payments is serious. That has implication in the life of a person who is now out of the system. And I think it's one thing which we really need to deal with it without waste of time. And thank you once again on the individual oversight document. I think you have engaged well on that one. We really appreciate. Also on the issue of the oversight report. And the proposal by Honorable Noe, this is one missing puzzle. I think we really appreciate your consideration as well on that one. And honorable members, the challenges of the department, which are centered around our survival as a society, requires every one of us to put our hands collectively on the deck. The minister of the Deputy Minister Holomisa proposed that a side time that we really demand individual to account on what they are doing. For instance, as we heard that the matters are referred to the Secretary for Defense and there's no acknowledgement. Those things we really need to take care of them, and we need to address them. We can't just sit while people are employed and they're not doing what are expected to do. And there are many people who hide behind the processes and who are not doing what they are supposed to do. I think those things, honourable members, we need to look at them. And once again, let's appreciate the presence of everyone on the platform. And in particular, let's extend our sincere appreciation to our support staff, the committee secretary, Mr. Matlingwan, the content advisor, Dr. van Rensburg, the researcher, Dr. van Steenkamp Fonseca, and the committee assistant, Mr. No. Thank you very much, members, and we wish you a pleasant weekend, and watch the Sia Kolisa and the boys tomorrow, those who are rugby fans, and the meeting has been adjourned, and thank you very much.
I'm one of them, Chair. You can see I'm wearing my cap. It's Friday.
You're wearing your cap. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, don't forget to buy me, a bottle of whiskey. I only take Glenfiddich 18 years. Thank you.
No, you're not feeling well, Shalembe. You must treat your flu.
Reverend Shalembe.
No, it's not fair.
The hot things you are talking about are not the blood of Jesus.
Thanks, honorable members.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.